Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers. We're live from a studio. We've levelled up and so have Erik Ten Hag's tricky Reds. Joe, how are you feeling very quickly?
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay composed at the moment. Trying to stay nice and relaxed, composed after what was a scintillating performance. I am very, very excited.
You're doing a very good job of it, mate. And this is going to be a scintillating show. We're with you for the next hour. If you want to get involved, make sure you get your questions in the little wee box next to us in the chat, and we'll endeavour to answer as many as possible come the end of the show. But plenty of sections to get through before then. Rounding off the lineup, Zachary Gelab. How are you feeling?
Yeah,
not
quite
relaxed throughout that, mate.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I didn't really have any stake in that, to be honest. It was all over that side. But yes, surprisingly impressed by Manchester United. Didn't think I'd be saying that after them playing Liverpool, that's for sure.
Well, those of you familiar with Winners and Losers will know that we normally do a winner, a loser, a talking point, and a moment of the week. But we're going to mix the show up because why the devil not? The devil's not. Hey, first segue. Joe, I want to ask you, firstly, where you thought this game was won. Big question. And we'll go through several answers.
I mean, it was just a totally different Manchester United, wasn't it? If you'd have said that Manchester United was going to turn up tonight, I would have laughed in your face, quite frankly. It was like a different 11 players. It was totally unrecognisable from the first two games. And I think that partly comes down to Erik Ten Hag making some huge calls in the build-up to this game. Huge calls in the lineup that could very, very easily have backfired. To drop your captain, to drop Cristiano Ronaldo, who in many fans' eyes is still crucial to that team as the goal scorer, to drop Luke Shaw as well, and to stick with the back four, the single-man pivot in front, with Eriksen playing the deeper role, which has been a total failure in the first two games. It's huge calls by Erik Ten Hag, and if they'd have gone wrong, he'd have been crucified tonight.
Yeah.
But they've gone exactly how he wanted them to. I thought Varane and Martinez were exceptional. And my man of the match was probably Tyrell Malacia, who I thought was just brilliant against probably the most dangerous forward in the league.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Like a bounds of energy, right? And we thought he was going to tire after 60 minutes, kept Salah under wraps. We thought that maybe Salah was biding his time, thinking this Ute, he's giving it all, beans in the first half, but I'm gonna be predatory, I'm going to wait for my moment, then strike, and it never came. And that back four, uncharacteristically tight. Dallo as well, on the other hand, on the other side. Lisandro Martinez deserves a shout-out, given the amount of grief he faced sort of post-Brentford.
Been battered for the first 2 weeks of the season for his height, hasn't he? And obviously today wasn't up against a particularly aerially dominant centre-forward, and you saw exactly what he's good at. The ground rules, massively aggressive in every confrontation, very tidy on the ball. And yes, I'm sure there are going to be moments throughout this season, let's not get ahead of ourselves, where Lisandro is beaten in the air against, a 6'3" centre-half. And Alexander Mitrovic jumps all over him and everybody goes, oh, look at this. But, you've got to caveat it with what he's good at as well. And clearly that's what he's in the game to do. So it was a big call to maintain him in the centre-back position at United today. And I thought Erik Ten Hag got it right. I thought he was brilliant. I thought everybody, to a man today, worked their socks off. And that's basically the bare minimum United fans wanted. United fans wanted a team that were going to run. That's the best off-the-ball display I've seen since Ralph Rangnick's first 45 against Crystal Palace, which then descended into anarchy. So
One era.
You've got to make sure that's not just a flash in the pan today.
Yeah, so no real standout performance in terms of individuals. You just think that the team selection, Malacia, Martinez, but team cohesion, team chemistry really came to the fore. Ten Hag got his...
had more goals as well.
His team selection spot on. Yeah, and Varane was making up for any of Lisandro Martinez's shortcomings. Varane stepped in, came across, showed his composure really, really well. I'm going to ask you then, Zach, where do you think the game was lost for Liverpool?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the starting lineup when it began, there was a lot of youngsters on Liverpool's bench. They've been going through a lot of injuries. Obviously, the suspension as well of Nunez, who you probably think would have started in this game. Bobby Firmino coming in. Was quite unnoticeable throughout the whole 90 minutes. And their midfield, I thought Harvey Elliott got into the game eventually, and he was maybe one of their brighter elements, but you see how they're missing someone like Fabinho. He was on the bench. He did have to come on originally, and the second he came on, Liverpool could put a real foot into the game. They started to control possession. And
United get a lot of joy in that 10 space, weren't they? Especially when Martial came on.
Indeed. And also, I thought you noticed that Trent was then able to push on so much more once Fabinho. And that's, especially at the moment, with the lack of Thiago, that's where a lot of their chances are coming through Trent. And so
they're always that was kind of Liverpool. They're always going to be.
They always are,
even when they're down and missing 3 or 4 key players.
And you got to mention as well that they were maybe a little bit more defensively suspect today. I don't think that was the exact same Liverpool we see normally. The chances that they... And Joe Gomez through the first half as well. I think he got into it again in the second half. But United had many more chances than Liverpool today. I think Liverpool really just about made that single chance which they ended up scoring in the end.
It
wasn't a clear cut.
Rashford chance.
There's also the Christian Eriksen free kick, which was a fantastic save from Alisson. Overall, the better team won today. I think that has to be said, and that was Manchester United.
Yeah, Liverpool had more shots on target, but Man United had far more conviction.
The positions from the shots as well are not to the quality of United have. The Elanga chance was so big as well, and obviously hits the post.
Got to score that.
United had far more conviction in their forward play, didn't they? And I mean, we were noting down as we went along, the pressing that Sancho was doing, the pressing that Martial was doing. Bruno was everywhere today. I mean, do you think were United players, are they responding now to Erik ten Hag dropping Ronaldo, dropping Maguire? Does everyone think, OK, this guy is pretty serious, there is going to be a cultural overhaul, I'd like to be a part of it, I'm kind of playing for my future here?
It's been a long time since a manager has been brave enough to make those calls, to drop Maguire, to drop Ronaldo. I think even Rangnick, when he came in, he wanted to do that potentially, but then he thought, you know what, short term, I've got to try and get into this Champions League spot, I'm going to have to maintain these certain positions.
Ten Hag's gone whole hog.
I think Ten Hag has, you know what, this is what needs to happen, and you're either going to work or you're not. And that's not to say Maguire's never going to get back into that team, because I still think there's a good defender in there somewhere, but he's clearly out of form. And we've all watched Maguire over the last 18 months and thought, why aren't United dropping him in? Let's give somebody else a go. And to have Lisandro Martinez and Varane play that well in that game, I think I would be surprised to see Harry Maguire come straight back into the team.
Okay, I wanted to ask you then, what do you think is next for the likes of Ronaldo, Shaw, Maguire, Manchester United's next 3 games, Southampton, Leicester, Arsenal? Do you make an unchanged 11 following this?
No, I would imagine that Casemiro comes in for Scott McTominay in the midfield.
Of course.
I think that's probably highly likely to happen. But I don't see Ronaldo coming back into the team. I'm not massively convinced Ronaldo will still be there at the end of the transfer window. I think that there will be an exit eventually found for him. I've got a £10 on him ending up at Atletico Madrid. I just think it's somehow someone's going to be waived, and that something like that is going to happen.
Yeah.
But
we do know that Atletico won't be able to offer him mega bucks because they're currently under sanctions, aren't they, from La Liga? They're spending.
Ronaldo might eventually go, do you know what, I will take a lesser wage to play in the Champions League and take that hit. So that might well happen, but it's not going to be easy to shift him. Maguire...
Bit of creative accounting by Atletico. It can be done.
I think Maguire will push very hard to come back into the team. United aren't going to sell Maguire. I know that he's been linked to you boys over the last week. I don't see Manchester United selling Maguire in the next 2 weeks. I think it would take a mega offer for that to happen.
No. And surely if you're Maguire now, right, and you're seeing Varane and Martinez perform like that, that's just got to have to drive you.
But the difficulty is for Maguire is, can he play in that same line as Varane? When Varane covers with his athleticism across and he uses his pace and his sort of prowess, that's not where Maguire is at his best. So can he do that? And as for Shaw, Shaw's got an uphill battle now.
Malacia was fantastic today.
He's aggressive. He's going forward.
I actually think it's going to be harder for Shaw to get back in the team than Maguire to an extent. Varane and Martinez seemed very simpatico, didn't they? So I did want to ask you about Maguire. Yeah. You said you think he'd be great in a 3 at Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel.
Well, it's not like it's the player that I'm saying.
The rumours persist.
It's not the player that I'm saying that Chelsea. Well, it's also not the player that I'm saying Chelsea needs to go and get. I'm just saying if he was to somehow make his way in somehow,
it materialised. Yeah.
To be honest, I think when you're playing a 3-at-back system like Thomas Tuchel does, really, you just have to be kind of bang average and you'll be absolutely fine. Have that extra cover. That's the whole point.
But you have played like Malang Sarr was doing a job.
Exactly. Exactly. And Harry Maguire is going to be an improvement on Malang Sarr, who's now gone on loan to Monaco. I just don't think it would be smart business from United to go and give their club captain to Chelsea.
The issue for Maguire is, I think that at the club, internally, Victor Lindelof is rated extremely highly, especially by Erik ten Hag. I think that Maguire is in a real battle there with Victor Lindelof, who is
Well, with the World Cup coming up as well, Maguire's going to be needing to get minutes. That's the thing, and with the World Cup being in November.
I feel like Maguire could play no minutes between now and Christmas, and Gareth Southgate would take him in that squad. Seriously.
Particularly if he persists with the back three, right? Yeah, Victor Lindelof, his skill set does seem like it would be held in high regard by Erik ten Hag, for sure. Let's move on then from those three, and let's touch on Liverpool for just a second then, because they did have extensive injuries, and we were saying on Sunday Vibes, maybe at the start of the summer, that, well, I certainly was persisting with this idea that they'd be okay, as long as they didn't have a gluttony of injuries again, which has happened, hasn't it? Particularly in midfield with the following players out. I mean, Thiago, Konate, Matip, Jones, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Diogo Jota, Ramsey, Naby Keita, Darwin Nunez obviously suspended for this game. That is an extensive rap sheet, isn't it? So do we think they need to dip their toe back into the market despite Jurgen Klopp saying they're not going to?
But a lot of these players
2 weeks to go
are players who have been. It's not new news that they're injury prone. Like a lot of these players have throughout their time at Liverpool, and Oxlade-Chamberlain, and even Thiago, since he's been at Liverpool, has been quite injury prone.
I don't think they should dip back in.
I mean, it depends if it's the right player there for them to go and do it. Look at Fabio Carvalho and Harvey Elliott. They were actually very good today when they were on the pitch. And so they can. And if Fabinho is fully fit, and we expected to, didn't seem like he came off at the end with any injuries, then a midfield of those two, and maybe. I actually didn't think Jordan Henderson was terrible in the end.
I just don't think
is okay for whilst they've got.
I don't think. Looking at the market now, there's not a name that stands out to me and goes, okay. Definitely would be a huge upgrade in that Liverpool midfield, would be a starter for Jurgen Klopp. Tielemans is available for 30 mil. I just don't see him as a Liverpool midfielder. Do I see Tielemans flying around the pitch, pressing everything? I don't see it. I think that they are much smarter, Liverpool, than, they wanted a midfielder. It's very clear because they went out and bid 80 million for Tchouaméni, or however much they ended up bidding for before he went to Real Madrid. So they clearly wanted one. They're much better holding that money and going in for Jude Bellingham next summer. They're much better served doing that.
I also think there's a halfway house somewhere in there. Maybe if Conrad Laimer is still available. We thought he was going to go to Bayern Munich, didn't we, from Leipzig. That's not quite happened. His profile suits FSG's recruitment in that he presses like hell, doesn't he? So
that's an interesting shout, Conrad Laimer, if his Bayern move collapses.
Maybe there's some players on the continent that tickles Jurgen Klopp's pickle.
This game as well might be the one that pushed them to do so. They might have thought before this game actually will be okay without.
They're not panickers, man.
No, they're not panickers at all. They're not panickers at all. However, they've yet to win a game in 3 games, and they've played Fulham and Crystal Palace along with you boys.
And a terrible year.
The issue is if some of those injuries persist.
I bet United today.
Because Thiago started a reasonable amount of games. It was 20 plus last season. Naby Keita actually started the most Premier League games of his Liverpool career last season. So it looked like some of these players had not fully got over their injuries, but had at least, I don't know, stepped it up in terms of their fitness or availability. And now it's kind of same old story, like Zach is saying. So
you've also got to keep in mind as well, Liverpool are expected to go far in all these competitions, and they're going to have a lot of minutes to be eaten up, and you can't be playing these same players over and over again, and then also trying to go far in the league.
But it's so funny because midway through last season we were saying, and pundits were saying, that Liverpool will now have a deeper squad than Man City. Do you remember when Luis Diaz arrived, everybody was going, look how deep this Liverpool team is, and Konate was there. And now we're saying they haven't got anywhere near enough depth. So I think it's
somewhere in the middle.
No, it is somewhere in the middle, but these players, when they get back, it'll be fine. I don't think they should sign anyone.
I think a signing will help, and I think one of the big ones I think we saw today as well was through the middle. Bobby Firmino just felt like he was non-existent today.
Nunez, why do you need
True, yeah, you do have the injury. You do have the injuries. You do have the injuries there, which they are coming back from. I guess also Klopp probably didn't expect for Nunez to be getting sent off the way.
And I think it's important to say, that was an off-colour Liverpool tonight. That was not the Liverpool we are used to.
No.
The players that we're used to being so solid and so structurally sound, like Virgil van Dijk, had a rare off night. Would you ever see Virgil van Dijk have a rare off night? Never. So I think it's very easy to say, sign these players, blah, blah, blah. I think it's important Liverpool don't panic. Even against Palace, I thought they were the much better team. They were very solid. Tonight was a rare, poor performance.
Do you think they were maybe shocked by United? Do you think they might have expected United to have been worse than they were today and not running like they were today?
Klopp's been saying the build-up all week, hasn't it? United are going to be the most dangerous possible this week because they are going to want to bounce back. They're going to fly out of the trap. So he would have been drilling that into the players all week. I think maybe they weren't expecting United to press as much, just because United never pressed.
Anthony Martial was doing it.
Anthony Martial, I was telling you to note down time periods. I saw Anthony Martial sprinting after balls. So I think that Liverpool just will be patient. They'll be relaxed. They know they're a fabulous football team. When they get a couple of players, they'll be fine. I wouldn't be panicking in the market.
But I don't think it would be panicking if they moved for a midfielder, given the composition of like their squad at current and and the injuries. I agree in the sense that depth is forward, fine in the forward line, it's fine at the back, but I think they'd be well within the rights to still look for a central midfielder.
If Naby Keita was to leave, I would agree with you. Like, there's been chat in Germany, hasn't there, that Naby Keita is not happy. I think Sky Germany are reporting that he may leave the club if he pushed hard enough, and then he wasn't in the squad tonight, although that does seem like that was an injury problem. I think if he was to leave, then yeah. But if you look at the full roster, when Thiago's in there, Henderson, Fabinho, Naby Keita, Harvey Elliott, Carvalho, Oxlade is, I think, out long term.
If he's ever fit.
I don't know. I think if they'd have been able to shift Oxlade-Chamberlain or Naby Keita, then it would have made room for a central midfielder.
I think the banking on those two players whose history of injuries are so poor. When you do have the option of maybe, I do think you are right as well, in terms of the name they can go and get in, especially when you're thinking there's rumours next season they're going to be after Jude Bellingham and possibly trying to get his signature. It might be a waste of money to go out and buy a midfielder now if you're going to get someone like that in next season. But I feel like it might be a little bit foolish and bite them, especially early on in the season if these injuries persist, if they don't go and get someone to kind of help them cover.
Yeah, even if it is just someone that's going to play, I don't know, rack up 1,000 to 1,500 minutes like Naby Keita did last season, if he's kind of becoming increasingly unreliable, it might have to pursue like a Florian Grillitsch. Is he committed to anyone yet? It was rumours he was going to go to Brighton, rumours he was going to go to Turkey.
I think he might have moved on, but
someone of that profile that maybe is going to be low cost, low risk, low wages.
Liverpool ever do that?
But I don't think they need to go out and get someone that improves that first 11, but someone who can pick up 1,000 minutes, like I say, might be a smart idea. Don't know what you guys think at home, but let us know in the comments and we'll pick up on some of your suggestions at the end of the show. Let's go back to Manchester United then. They deserve a little bit more attention. We've spoken about Liverpool for quite some time now.
He's not been this positive.
Yeah, United deserve some shine. So I want to ask, what next? What keeps this momentum going? Let's talk transfer market first, and then we'll talk squad selection maybe a little bit afterwards. I know we've already touched upon that.
Yeah.
So Antony on Instagram with his agent, watching the game tonight. He's been out of Ajax squads in recent weeks, trying to engineer a move to Old Trafford. How do you feel about that price point?
Fee's obscene. Fee is absolutely horrifying. It's horrifying.
To quote Chris Hamill, no player from the Eredivisie should be leaving for 100 million.
The fee, let's have it absolutely right, the fee is horrifying. It cannot, it's going to happen probably at that fee, but it's ridiculous.
So just to give that some context, they rejected £67.2 million, Ajax. It was thought that Ajax were going to accept that bid, but then they've watched United become increasingly desperate and now demanding 84 mil. But some of that is to do with the fee that's going to Sao Paulo as well, right?
Off 5 mil.
No, but let's not forget as well that Ajax have lost so many key players this summer. They've lost their manager, they've lost their assistant manager. To lose Antony this late in the market would be horrendous for them as a club. So they can charge what they want. I totally respect Ajax for making that stand. As for Manchester United, United really need to set out some principles in the market, I think. And by paying 100 million for Antony, I think you immediately open yourself up for every other club to go, 100 million you had for Antony, okay, then this is what he's going to cost. I think United really need to take a stand and go, okay, you want to charge that, we'll walk away from the deal, and we'll move on to an alternative target. And I would have no problem with that. I think Antony's a fabulous player, but the price point is utterly ridiculous at this stage. He would no doubt be an improvement for Manchester United, and let's not forget that this is probably Erik ten Hag driving it. This is Erik ten Hag saying, he's a player I've got to have him. So United are kind of like, but at some stage somebody from the club has to go, look, Erik, we've tried up to this fee. We simply cannot go above this. The market rate is ridiculous.
Yeah. To a degree, we've seen that with Casemiro, right? Like, you guys were linked with Frankie de Jong for a long time. Maybe he was begging for it for a long time.
I still think there's chances for Frankie de Jong.
I love it. I love the positivity. What has come over you in the last half an hour?
The reason is I think Manchester United are definitely going to try and sign another midfielder before the window closes. Now, I say there's chances for Frankie de Jong. It's very unlikely. I said it right. The money's gone on Casemiro. I think if United don't move for Antony, clearly United have the funds for another major move, don't they? I think if they don't move for Antony and they move somebody like Gakpo,
It saves.
I think United might be thinking to themselves, OK, look, we're going to have to bite the bullet, pay the deferred wages, and we're going to have to try and get Frenkie de Jong. I think Erik ten Hag wants another central midfielder to supplement what he's already got. He probably wants another right-back as well. It might not be Frenkie de Jong, but I wouldn't be surprised to see another midfielder come through the door. And I think Frenkie de Jong is probably still one of their principal targets, despite the fact, yes, it's very, very unlikely. I think the chances of it happening are probably 50-1.
Yeah, just to reiterate some points we've made on previous shows. Casemiro is absolutely a world-class player. He's going to provide an awful lot of cover for what was prior to this game an extremely porous defence. But we've been following United closely for the last 2-3 weeks, haven't we? And Rabiot isn't De Jong, who isn't Casemiro. And these are all very different profiles of players, so it's hard to kind of keep up with their thinking. So I agree. I think they still need a world-class ball carrier. Exactly. To drag them up the middle of the pitch. Part of the Antony deal might be Hakim Ziyech going to Ajax.
Yeah,
Would you be, sad to see him go? Bit of a lacklustre couple of years, right?
Yeah,
Chelsea?
I don't think it's quite worked out for Hakim Ziyech at Chelsea. That's for sure. There have been elements. That's for sure. Definitely during Frank Lampard's second season when he was going through that good patch. I remember a game against Leeds where Ziyech was fantastic and looking like he might progress here. Then he got injured, and Chelsea had to change things up, and so. I think there's a few signings Chelsea have made where maybe they're looking at this transfer window now. They've already done it with Timo Werner and saying, OK, do we cut our losses here? I think Chelsea spent something like £35 million on Hakim Ziyech, so it's not maybe the quite 50 million that it was on Timo Werner. And him going back to the club where he was fantastic before, obviously he knows the city very well, is something that is very possible. There have also been the rumours about him going to AC Milan, another league that I think he'd be very successful in.
But maybe curtailed by the Ketelare move,
Indeed. And that's where obviously if they do let go of Antony, then they will be after a key player.
Ziyech, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll come on to some more transfers in a bit.
Yeah.
I think there are other options at United that need strengthening as well.
You boys were after United as well, right? After Ziyech as well,
yeah.
right?
Well, we were interested earlier in the summer, I think, is that sort of full-back option alongside Pulisic. But I think, if Ronaldo leaves in this next 2 weeks, I'd be extremely surprised not for us to go for an out-9 as well.
And so who's that?
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really
There's an absolute scarcity
it's a really
of
difficult
nines
option because there are no nines
available right now.
And United might be forced to dip into someone rather unsurprising.
Yeah, you might have to repeat yourself to an extent, but you said the £84 million it would require to get Antony out of Ajax is horrifying. How would you spend that £84 million then? What positions would you prioritise? Have you got any players in mind that you'd really like to see at United?
I definitely think there's a forward needed at Manchester United, versatile. And don't get me wrong, this is not me saying I think Antony's bad or would be a bad player for United. I think he'd be a really great player for United, but the fee is just obscene. So I think United need another central midfielder. They need a striker. They need a right back. I would say a goalkeeper, but I don't think the goalkeeping option is there to challenge De Gea at that fee. I think if you want to get a goalkeeper, like how Pep, when he came in, clearly didn't really fancy Hart, but had other problems to deal with first. Kept Hart for a season, second season thought, OK, now's the time to bring in Edison. I think that's probably a next summer problem.
Or Claudio Bravo as well,
yeah. He tried it. He tried different things, but it didn't quite work. So I think United might almost replicate something like that. So I think a central midfielder that can progress the ball, a right back to challenge Diogo Dalot that allows Aaron Wan-Bissaka to go out as well, and then a striker to basically alleviate Cristiano Ronaldo and allow Cristiano Ronaldo to leave the club are needed. Those names, I think they're really hard to find in the market, especially the fullback position. Finding a quality fullback now is incredibly tough because it's such a sought-after position. The striker role, there's already a dearth in the market. Chelsea are trying to sign a striker and they're having to dip into Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to the tune of £30 million. United are not going to be spending £30 million on that. Like, we've seen them try and go for a budget option like Arnautovic. So I don't know. I think the striking options are difficult. Maybe the people in the comments can let us know who they think United should sign through the middle, because it's tough. But Martial's going to play there when he's fit.
I was going to say, Anthony Martial today was, for the 45 minutes that he was on, was a completely different player than we've ever seen at Manchester United before.
I don't know where that player's been. I do wonder whether maybe, going to Sevilla and it not working at Sevilla
made him realise.
It's been a bit of a reality check for him. He's thought, I need to Sevilla weren't willing to come in for him at a cut price tiny fee for United, so maybe that's been a bit of reality checking, and we'll see.
Rashford too in the first half. He got a bit knackered by the end, but he was also.
I still don't think
positive.
He's a number 9.
Okay.
Still think he's better coming in off that left-hand side, Marcus Rashford. So I do think there's a definite space for a number 9, and I think Cristiano Ronaldo will vacate that. I don't know what you think. Do you think Ronaldo's going to be here? September the 2nd?
Running out of homes, isn't he? Obviously, the Dortmund CEO said he would love to see him at the Signal at Donna Park, but
it's the most anti-Dortmund signing ever.
Yeah,
and that social post a couple of weeks ago was very odd.
Yeah,
put out.
Yeah, he's kind of been. I feel like he's trying to be cryptic, but he's come across a little bit. I don't know. He's
and there's something to
sullying his reputation with United fans, isn't he?
The third choice striker tonight. Rashford started through the middle. Martial came on first sub as a striker.
Right.
That's effectively third choice striker. There's no way Cristiano Ronaldo is staying at Manchester United to be third choice striker on £500,000 a week this season. It's just not going to happen.
I mean, here's some other names you've been linked with. Give me a quick yes or no, and then we'll move on to our next section, which is around the houses. We're just going to visit some of the biggest topics from the best of the rest, basically. So, Mounier, right back.
Depends what the fee is. I don't think it's the worst shout, really, to support Diogo Dalot if it's on a short-term contract, because if it allows Aaron Wan-Bissaka to go out to Crystal Palace, I think United need a slightly more attacking option right back, so I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Rolling back to our 2017 how to fix.
Not on a 5-year deal, though, do you know what I mean? Like a 1 or 2 year deal.
Okay. Melia in goal.
No, not for me.
You don't like Melia?
I think he's a fabulous goalkeeper, but I think he doesn't fit the Erik ten Hag vision of a goalkeeper. I think he's an amazing shot stopper. He's super dominant in the air, but I think there are other options out there that would be better suited to an Erik ten Hag system.
Yeah, for you?
David Raya at Brentford.
Yeah, I don't really know enough about goalkeepers to have a good selection, to be honest with you. I feel like it's a really niche position to like pick selections for, especially like distributing. You always have to watch that keeper regularly. If you watch highlights of a keeper, you never see the ball distribution, do you? So I don't know. Yeah, David Raya is obviously very good with his feet. I think Robert Sanchez is a really good goalkeeper as well at Brighton. But these players aren't going to come cheap. Goalkeeping position, especially when they know United have got cash, is going to be serious money. And let's not forget, Dean Henderson might have a stunning 12 months at Forest, come back and be the United number one. It's not improbable.
Yeah. We've got Caicedo as well from Brighton. Of course, he was scouted by United prior to his Brighton picking him up from South America.
Too early. United had a chance to sign him for £4 million. You know, let the lad develop at Brighton, for goodness sake. He looks like a really good player, but you know,
just off the back of a good night against United, right?
He's played 10, 12 games with Brighton. It's just ridiculous.
It felt like a very tenuous link. And then we'll talk about Cody Gakpo lastly then before we move on, because here's someone that I feel like you're slightly underwhelmed about, but may provide good cover on the right and the left, can play down the middle at a push.
Yeah, again, I think the wide forward is less needed than the striker for United. But, you know, yeah, I haven't watched enough of him, to be honest, to hold serious opinions of him. What I've seen of him and the numbers I've read of him, he looks exciting and he would offer cover, but is it the cover United need, or could they just get a striker and then Martial offers the left wing cover, or Rashford drops to the bench, or Sancho can offer cover out there? You've got Alanga as well, can offer wide cover, Garnacho can offer wide cover. Number 9 is the player we need.
I think I'd still prefer Pulisic on loan versus Cody Gakpo anyway, if they can sort of facilitate a move like that.
If you get an option to buy.
Yeah, let's move on to Chelsea then. And obviously, Zach, you are the man when it comes to Chelsea. Now, we read prior to going live that Chelsea were pretty confident from a number of sources of landing Anthony Gordon and Rafael Leao.
Wow, that's
from
exciting,
AC Milan. 22 goals and assists from the left winger last campaign. Yeah. I feel like you've been linked with every winger under the sun. You've got an awful lot of wide talent in the squad already. So what gives? Surely this means players are moving on as well, mate.
Oh, mate, like I think Chelsea is just any exciting youngster is who's Chelsea's been linked to, and also a player who's now in his 30s in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Number one issue is goal scorer. Number one issue is a goal scorer for sure. They don't have that at all. They've got a youngster in Broha who looks exciting for sure, can run the channels really well, but every other week seems to be injured, which isn't very positive at only 20 years old. It kind of felt like before the Premier League started that Chelsea were happy to go with Kai Havertz and have Broha as the backup. And then the season started and they've gone, still got the same issues, can't score any goals.
30 million on Aubameyang.
Well, I think the latest report is 20 million or 17 million plus £5 million add-ons, which is better.
It's better, but it's a lot.
And then there are still
the
reports that Marcos Alonso will go the other way. Obviously, he has a fantastic relationship supposedly with Thomas Tuchel. They get on really, really well. It's a guy who's going to run the channels. I don't see him pressing as much as, say, someone like Kai Havertz is going to, but maybe that's something Thomas Tuchel is willing to sacrifice in order to have a goal scorer in the box, because chances like ones that came against Tottenham Hotspur for Kai Havertz need to be taken. And the hope is that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang would do that if he comes in. I don't mind it.
I like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as a player, and obviously he's got the connection to Thomas Tuchel, but it's such a it's almost,
not the first.
You know how United have been criticised really badly recently of like these short-term signings, like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on like a 3 or 4 year.
But at the same time, I think you've got to remember Chelsea have tried the long-term route. And it's not gone well.
Yeah.
Hakim Ziyech, Christian Pulisic, Timo Werner.
It's all about how well you can respond after Lukaku failing so dramatically. And I don't think someone like Aubameyang or someone like Jamie Vardy's obviously signed a new contract now, so that's kind of dispelled all those rumours, is the worst idea.
And the striker market at the moment, we've just mentioned about United,
it's so thin.
Isn't great.
It's mad
It's
thin.
really... And maybe next summer, you know what, people have come... deals have gone down a year... Another youngster has come through that looks really, really exciting, and so it might look a little bit easier then. But I think for someone that knows the league, who has been a success, don't get me wrong, his last season at Arsenal wasn't great. It was very, very poor. But previous to that was very, very successful in the Premier League, won the Golden Boot.
Do you know what's crazy?
Getting him in is not a bad idea
like,
to me.
why didn't you go for Gabby Jesus?
Chelsea did go for Gabby Jesus, but Chelsea don't have Mikel Arteta and they don't have Edu.
Do you think he picked Arsenal over you?
I don't reckon Chelsea went as hard for Gabby Jesus as they did for Raheem Sterling.
But do you not think that was more necessary than Raheem Sterling? If you could have had one of the two City players, it feels to me like he's the better fit for that system, and you've already got the wide talent to kind of pitch.
I mean, you don't know where the deal was whether the deal was basically going to be done with Arsenal when Chelsea went in, and I do agree. Like Gabby Jesus looks fantastic.
Chelsea.
I also think that Chelsea would have just been a more attractive prospect in
Champions League football, yeah, for sure.
No, I mean, sorry, Arsenal just playing down the centre, has that working relationship with the coach. Like he needed a little bit of love. Maybe needed to be the main guy. Like, what centre forwards have prospered under Thomas Tuchel in the last in his Chelsea tenure?
I also do question whether Champions League football is actually that much of an attractive prospect to footballers that are playing the Champions League. To someone like Gabby Jesus, where he might even have come to Chelsea, and then there was a lot of talk about, is he going to get minutes with Kai Havertz? Is he going whereas the Arsenal is, you are the main man here, you are going to be our star for the years to come. Yeah. And so I can understand why that project is maybe more attractive as well, and I don't know about the money side of things.
And maybe just saw a more settled forward line. Chelsea trying to overhaul that front line in its entirety, aren't they?
There's a lot more pressure,
I know what you're saying. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, for sure. And I think there's a lot more pressure coming into the Chelsea front line than is the Arsenal front line. Like the Arsenal front line is pretty settled. Like Saka's really good, Martinelli's really good, Odegaard's fantastic, even the Emile Smith-Rowe when he's on is really good, whereas Chelsea's front line is still very much like, who's going to score the goals?
I think that's exactly what I was trying to articulate. You look at the composition of both sides, maybe as someone that's just going to drop in that number 9's place, and you're like, listen, I can see my supply line at Arsenal. Chelsea, conservative coach, struggling for goals, big money signings have failed up top. Like,
playing for Chelsea now requires a lot of maybe what he was kind of doing at City anyway, and he's going to have to do a lot of running, he's going to have to do a lot of pressing, and maybe for attackers it's not the most fun thing to be doing, whereas at Arsenal it is looking like it's very
he's working hard, but he's given a bit more freedom.
Exactly.
Right?
It's going to be so interesting to see Aubameyang do that role. Like, do I ever see Aubameyang? I just don't see Aubameyang doing this like Havertz dog work. I know that he's obviously...
Maybe that's why he's buying Antony Gordon.
But
this is another one.
Let's talk about Antony Gordon, man. Like, I love Antony Gordon, but he's scored 4 Premier League goals, 3 of them been deflected. Like, he's obviously a breakthrough star, but where the hell's he play?
I don't want people to ever think like we're talking down about Antony Gordon in this situation.
He's a good player, mate,
because when he plays for English youth teams as well, he's often looked like the best player on the pitch. He's clearly got something about him where he's going to be a very good Premier League player and effective for a side in the top half of the table, but I don't know where the fee has come from for starters. £50 million, I can't...
Well, 45 million has already been rejected.
Yeah, I don't understand how Everton can say no to that, first and foremost, given their outlay over the last few years. But yeah, with those 2 floating number 8s occupied by Mount,
I think he might see him as a right wing
by Sterling.
I honestly think he might see him as a right wing back.
What about Loftus-Cheek's renaissance at the start of the season?
Is not the reason that you're going for Fofana to play Reece James as a wing back?
I know, mate. I would love to give
explain your club, mate.
No, I agree.
And as well,
I agree.
Have we forgotten who Callum Hudson-Odoi is? It's like these are these not?
But I think
these calibre of players.
I think this is where he has tried Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Callum Hudson-Odoi is okay, but he's not going to be a right wing back. Maybe he looks at someone like Anthony Gordon and goes, I can mould this guy into what I want. But then also what doesn't make sense is I think the long-term future is still in Thomas Tuchel's mind of a 4 at the back. Like, he wants to eventually move to a 4 at the back, and he did it a little bit against Spurs.
And then that makes less sense of the Cucurella signing, though.
I question whether he
really
is
falling down the pecking order.
I question whether how.
Do you think Chilwell's recovery
injury?
Right.
Like Chilwell got a really bad injury, like for
maybe something we don't
ACL,
know.
And maybe he's seen him and goes, you know what, I don't want to rush. Maybe he didn't think he was going to spend 60 million plus on him. Maybe again it was the 40 million.
That's a bit of an Antony sort of overpay.
Yeah. And so he was like, okay, look, I can get a guy in here who can help me win for about 3 at the back, and we got cover. He play left wing back, and he can play left back as well in a 4 at the back too. Because actually in interviews he has said, Cucurella, I'm actually a left back. Like that's where I see myself in interviews recently. But God, like I think also Chelsea need a midfielder. Like it's one of the great things that came out of Spurs.
Kante, Jorginho, both the last years of the deals, right?
And that was the thing. Like coming out of the Spurs game, you were like, "Oh, Kante looks fantastic, great." Hamstring gone.
But where's his money? Like I know that the owners come in.
So Chelsea. So in terms of money's
out is huge.
So because of the COVID ruling and FFP at the moment, Chelsea are actually really, really right.
I get that, but still.
But they're okay until.
Can't do 300 million in a window.
So I think obviously there is also sales that are going to be happening. Chelsea are obviously trying to offload Hakim Ziyech. The Pulisic rumours. Pulisic
loan.
Come on, Hakim Ziyech should be going for about 20 something at least. The Christian Pulisic rumours. Well, you'd also hope that had an obligation to buy.
Like done loan on Lukaku.
Again, you're hoping that becomes a sale eventually.
Loan for
Chalobah. Chalobah's not going to get sold anyway.
Loan for Hudson.
Chalobah's not, but I don't think they're going to look to be selling Callum.
But then the potential outlays become 60 on Cucurella, 80 on Fofana, 35 on Koulibaly.
Listen, I was just about to say it. I understand what you're saying, but clearly they're not worried about getting players out the door because they've already had bids rejected for these players that you're mentioning. Yeah, but, like, what was it, 70?
You can't spend 300 million in a window. I think there is a good chance.
I think there is a good chance you might see Chelsea spend 300 million.
That's absolutely insane. If we see Chelsea,
and from the things that I've read, it's that Swiss
Ramble.
He did a whole article where he basically said Chelsea are absolutely fine in terms of money and FFP.
But I'm not talking about FFP. I'm talking about you doing so much money in one window that then you're then pigeonholing Tuchel into all of these players working in one system.
But as much as I love Thomas Tuchel, like he is basically in control of these signings. Yeah. He is the guy. If these signings don't work out, he's not really got anyone to blame because it's on him.
A little bit reminiscent to Lampard when he spent 220, and the sort of I guess that outlay weighed heavily over him, didn't it, for the next 6 months? But
that's a lot of money.
I think...
Haven't even mentioned Frankie de Jong.
I think it's probably best we move on from Chelsea because I feel like we could speak about them for another 15, 20 minutes.
Sure we will speak about Chelsea throughout. But it's an interesting one, and God, by the end of this week we could have 3 new players.
I think new striker so necessary. I think that Kai Havertz has given an unbelievable amount of bandwidth. But let's move on. We can argue about that on Sunday Vibes. Right, so Pedro Neto, also heavily linked with Arsenal, and I saw you tweeting earlier today about...
Get him instead of Gordon.
Yeah, about the fee. You were sort of... I can tell your mind was boggling because...
my mind was boggled at the Antony fee, though.
Allegedly, he was available for 50 mil. Arsenal have been in talks with him, according to David Ornstein, for the best part of a month. So it looks like, actually, this has been more of a long-term pursuit than we sort of anticipated. How do you see him fitting into that Arsenal side?
I love the signing. I absolutely love the signing. I was speaking about him on We Need to Talk on Friday. And obviously Arsenal have been keen on a right winger, haven't they, for some time? They had the bid rejected for Rafinha, and that feels like that's 6 months ago now. But it was only in June, wasn't it? So clearly they've been targeting a right winger. And if it's true that they've been in negotiations with Pedro Neto's agent, George Mendes, behind the scenes and having conversations with him as the intermediary, then I just think it's fabulous business. I think Wolves wanting £50 million, Arsenal having £35 million bid turned down. If they could meet at, let's say in the middle, 40, 45, I just think that it's such good business by Arsenal. I think that is an undervaluation by Wolves because of a major injury. And obviously he's had his knee problem and we haven't really seen how he's bounced back from that. But prior to the knee problem, he was so fabulous as both a left winger and a right winger coming in on that left foot. I know it's only 5 goals, 6 assists that he put up in that one Wolves season, but there was something in his game when you watched Pedro Neto. You were like, this lad is unreal. He works so hard off the ball. He's a great profile of age at 22. He fits exactly into what you want from somebody to compete with Bukayo Saka on that right-hand side, who can also play through the middle, can also play on the left. He's just ideal for Arsenal, and I don't think they are going to pay what Wolves want. I think Arsenal, unlike a Man United, unlike Chelsea, are perfectly willing to go, OK, here's where we're at. If you're not at that, we'll walk away from this deal. Which I totally respect that way of doing it.
Like they did with Rafinha as well.
Yeah, well, they had bid for rejected Rafinha, and then I think they wouldn't. Yeah, like you said, they knew they were not going to be able to compete with Chelsea and Barcelona in terms of money. But for me, Pedro Neto's profile for that Arsenal squad is like simpatico.
Well, if your 11 goal contributions, like if you pulled that stat out correctly, I mean that was like 25% of Wolves. Contributed to 25% of Wolves' goals in the Premier League last campaign. Let's not forget how goal shy.
It's the season before.
Oh, the season before.
Yeah,
I mean, how goal shy they've been for the last couple campaigns, right?
And we don't know how he's going to bounce back from the injury, because doing an ACL, or was it ACL or MCL? It was a knee problem anyway. Doing his knee at that age is never a good sign.
Yeah.
But
doesn't look like at the start of the season he's lost any pace or lost a step.
No.
So. Yeah, let's just hope that he picks up where he left off, basically.
The Arsenal mould so well, man.
He does.
Like Edu's come in, and you have to give credit. And I don't know if you watched it on the documentary, coming in and getting rid of your club captain and cancelling his contract, and going for the profile of young players and continuing that as well this season, and getting Zinchenko. And
but they've learned from that. They didn't. Start
they've learned the hard way. They've learned the hard way.
Doing that. Let's not forget when they were bringing the likes of Willian in at the start, and now they've quickly realised, okay, that's not the way to go. A Pedro Neto signing fits the exact style of signing we've seen from the Ramsdales, Sammy Lokongas, Alexander Zinchenko's, Gabriel Jesus's. It's almost to a T. Premier League experience at a young age, a number of seasons, been there and done it for a very decent Wolves side. That is just perfectly simpatico with Arsenal, and if they can get that deal done, they have had by far the best window of any Premier League team.
And Eddie's also, he knows who he's buying for now. Even if you had a world-class director of football at Manchester United over the last 5 or 6 campaigns, he's buying for a different profile of manager every 12 months. So hopefully with Ten Hag having a very, very clear philosophy, and we've seen today he's opted to stick to his guns over a pragmatism. No one would have begrudged him coming into this game that he's going to want a very specific type of player. Unlike Chelsea, Arsenal may have to get rid of some players before they bring someone like Neto in. And I know it's quite a modest fee compared to some of the fees we're seeing, but there's talks of Pepe going to Nice. They need to kind of engineer that sort of deal.
You can get for Pepe,
get him off the wages before maybe they pursue someone like him.
On his deal too.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, 72?
The ideal one for Pepe now is 72 million. It's their club record fee, and the ideal one is, okay, you get him on loan. Get that value up. Get that value up in a league he knows, where he's performed unbelievably well at Lille. Nice, perfect place to kind of go to. Get that value up. Next season, got 1 year on his contract, at least hopefully kind of recoup.
Yeah, and they need to get Saliba tied down to a new deal. Saliba is just so fabulous.
2 year deal.
2 years left on his deal. They cannot afford to let Saliba go throughout this season, have a sensational season, have a 1 year left on his deal, and then see, 1 year left on his contract. Manchester City, Liverpool, whoever, Real Madrid go, okay, he's got 1 year left. If they come in, then
he's holding all the cards in the summer.
It's so hard.
I can already see it. Leaving for Juventus on a free, on absolutely seismic wages. Yeah, we'll see.
Same with Bukayo Saka, though. Right. Bukayo Saka who needs a new contract.
Let's address the last couple of topics in very quick fire fashion, then, because we're wrapping up very, very soon, guys. We've only got 1 minute, in fact, but we'll go over a little bit. Gerrard. Steven Gerrard. Do we think he's going to win the sack race at the start of this campaign? It's been pretty ugly, and it was a very ugly finish as well to the last campaign. Yeah,
it was not great. I think there are a few managers in the league that have started in precarious territory. I think it's not just Steven Gerrard, to be fair. I think, Frank Lampard has started the season slightly in
underwhelming fashion, but
he's wobbling a little bit.
But Frank Lampard is still piecing together a team, whereas
he hasn't got that excuse. Steven Gerrard hasn't got the Lampard excuse of He's lost Calvert-Lewin, lost
And he spent a lot more,
Richarlison.
and Steven Gerrard spent a lot more money than Frank
the
Lampard
squad's
too
not in
as
a great
well.
position. Like, we're fully aware we're battling relegation, all this sort of stuff. And he's got a lot of fan support, Frank Lampard, whereas I think Steven
Things are
Gerrard's
starting
fan
to-
support has really waned recently. I've seen a lot of Aston Villa fans online not particularly happy. But then, equally, I saw Brendan Rodgers get booed off at the weekend. And he's not in a great position given that players may be leaving in that squad over the next 2 weeks.
Whereas today you saw Erik Ten Hag make a decision, it's paid off for him, making the decision to drop Fofana after the Chelsea links and dropping Tielemans as well after his links and losing the game. Especially when I think they were winning at one point. They were winning.
I don't have as much problem with dropping those players, but I have a bit of a problem with. I thought they stagnated last season, Leicester, and they haven't kicked on. They haven't signed anyone. It feels like it's just like slowly stagnating.
They are also dealing with FFP issues, which is why selling a player would maybe help them in the transfer market. Who's the one player they've signed so far?
Alex Smithies, the goalkeeper.
Yeah, exactly. And so if things continue, and they've got some big games as well. I think they're facing Manchester United soon. They're facing Chelsea soon as well. Chelsea next, in fact. If things go wrong there,
they got Chelsea next 2 games.
We were saying at the end of last season, weren't we, that when it came to Leicester, they were one of the teams where the table did lie.
Yeah.
They were very fortunate to finish 8th.
Underlying numbers, expected goals and expected goals against.
They were playing like a relegation, a team that was in the midst of a relegation dogfight. So yeah, I think that probably bought him, curried him some favour, and then of course making no transfers. I feel like again he's got more bandwidth than someone like Gerrard, who I know Carlos, one of his marquee signings, is now injured, but he still spent his 3rd window? I want to say because he came in match day 4 or 5.
Losing his assistant as well, Gerrard.
Mick Beale, gone to QPR, supposed to be the brains at Rangers.
That was a big blow to him. So I think, Steven Gerrard's slightly worried about, but overall Arsenal, just to wrap off that section, their business this summer. If they get Neto, window, by far the best window.
Yeah.
Window of dreams.
There we have it. I don't think we've got any time for any fan questions, but we'll hit you up either on Twitter, on Instagram, or in future shows. You know that we've got a lot coming up. Sunday Vibes, no less. What we're going to do this week, I think we're going to try and predict your club's transfer deadline day.
Not another prediction.
Get your crystal balls out, lads, because it's happening. Yeah, so if you enjoyed this live, please do let us know, because we want to make these a more regular feature moving forward this season. We're back at it. Football Daily ramping up the production values. Like this video, subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and we'll catch you next week for another episode of Winners and Losers. Goodbye.